All right. So we've got some drill for skill PDI. And during this section, I'm just going to I'm going to say, hey, a rep calls in doing blank. Um, um, how do you handle? And what you're gonna do, you're not gonna say, well, I would tell them this and I would tell them that. You're not gonna do that. Cool. You're just gonna pretend you're on the call. You're like, okay, well, Kathy, tell me, and you're just gonna go from there. Like I'm your rep calling you. Everyone got that? So that's how we're gonna treat this. So rep calls in, just had their first demo, had a great demo. They call you, they had a no sale, and they got 10 recommendations. What does that call sound like? Who wants to take that? Go for it, Devin.
What's up, superstar? Hey, that's all good. Let me just ask you a few questions here. Did they like Cutco? Like, how are they feeling it?
Yeah, they really loved it. They just, they said that they just couldn't right now. They had a lot of different things going on, but we had a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah. So sounds like they like Cutco. Do you think they would want to buy later, maybe if it's not right now, but maybe later down the line, like Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas is around
Yeah,
the corner.
I think so. I think that they would, for sure. They just said they really liked it. They just couldn't right now.
Okay, great. Yeah. Um, so I just want to make sure that we're reminding them, um, that they get the best deals right now when they see you. Okay. Um, you know, we wouldn't want them if they really do like Cutco. If we know they're gonna get it in the future, right? We would love to save them money by just having them get it now, right? So if they are gonna get anything today, even if it's like a gift, for someone else, maybe it's not for them, but we could always try to shift their focus to other people. Um, they're always going to be a preferred customer in the future when they do choose to, complete that set or get that cookware. Um, Personally, I would recommend, show them the trimmer, right? It's great for small fruit, small veggies. We call it like our mini utility knife, and it's super versatile. And guess what, Kathy? It's only $50 on the toupee, right? All they would be budgeting is a tank of gas. So I would show them that, show them how they can get something today so that in the future, we can get them a better deal.
Okay, cool. All right, great stuff. And by the way, I forgot to say this before. If you guys can all have pen and paper out, and like, I really need to grab mine right now, and I am not able to move for 10 more minutes. But grab a pen and paper because I'd love for you guys to write down when someone does something. What are the things you liked, right? Like what stood out? Where were you like, oh, they did a good job with this, right? And then if there's anything that you'd add to it. So, would anyone else like to add, or anyone else want to take a shot at that same scenario, real quick? Raise your hand if you want to.
I wanted to ask real quick because whenever they're like having trouble closing, I have this old like trimmer approach. Is it okay to just send them that as well? It's like I don't know if I should send it to you, but I have like a trimmer approach that I use to just get a
Uh,
sale
I'd
and
love
kind
I'd love to
of
take
send
a
them
shot
out.
at it. There's some basic things we want to dig in a little bit more in terms of elevating this call. Cool, which I'm going to walk
Okay,
with you guys.
gotcha.
But real quick, what did Devin do well?
He was very energetic. I really
Great
liked that.
energy. Great energy. Absolutely. Made me feel really good. What else?
I really liked what he said about like only budgeting a tank of gas. I think that really
Oh,
helped
that was
put it in perspective.
awesome. That was awesome. Hopefully you guys all got that. That was fantastic. Little plug there. What else? Did you guys see how he asked, like, did they like Cutco? Would they want to get it later? And he was talking about the first call special promo. So whether you use the gas analogy or not, just promoting that first call, how it gets you in the system, so you can always get deals and how you get the best deals today, right? All that great stuff. Okay. Now rewind this sucker. So a couple of things you guys want to find out, like, so if they call me. So one, was I still at the demo or did I leave already? Right?
Uh,
Because it's a little bit different combo if I'm still there and what I'm guiding, and if they're gone, what I'm still guiding. Okay. By the way, what I'm sharing with you guys right now, most new guys, this is going to go over your head. This is all, again, The point of this is like, how do we level up, right? How do we master this stuff? So you guys have learned. Devin, you did a phenomenal job for someone who's been here less than a year. And it's like, how do you continue to level up, right? So one, I want to know, hey, by the way, are you still there, right? Are you still at the house? And like, oh no, I left, or oh no, I finished. Then then it's a little bit different guidance, right? On that. Another question that I want to know is like, oh, are they so when they say, oh, they couldn't, they really liked it, like you ask them like, oh, what did they like it, what they think, or do they couldn't? Oh no, they loved it, they just couldn't right now, right? In a nice way, I dig in a little bit more and I'm like, oh, and this is something that my manager taught me, and it's all about how you deliver it. But my manager was like, oh no, did they lose their job or something? And sometimes they might say like, oh yeah, they did. And he's like, oh yeah, that happened. And that happened to me like a couple times. And he was like, hey, that happens. Nothing you can do. Like, you didn't know that in advance. Nothing you can do to control that. Cool. Great job with getting your sponsorship on Rex. For the future, let's say they hadn't lost their job. Dig in a little bit more. You don't want to forget about even a first call special. It's like tank of gas, that they're putting aside for 2 months. And like now they actually have Cutco, and I promise you, 5, 7, 10 years, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 months from now, they will buy more. Like when they buy a trimmer, they get obsessed with Cutco and they always want more. So just for future, if you ever have someone that just can't right now, but like they are actually working, like everyone can afford, if they're working, you tell me, if someone's working full time, can they afford $25 to $35 a week? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, people spend it on cigarettes, vapes, whatever. We're not even thinking about it, right? It's not whether they can afford Cutco or not. It's one, are they excited about it, right? Like, do they actually want it? That's the first thing. And then two, do they feel they can swing it today? Right. So like, are they excited? And then do they feel they can swing it today? Because we know like they work full time. Of course they can afford 20, 30 bucks a week. It's just, do they want to do it? Right. Like, are they excited about it? And then are we showing them how it could be more comfortable, right? How they could do that today. So that's the biggest things, right? So I just always want to know. So someone calls me and they say, oh, I just finished, had a great demo, had a no sale. First, that's not a great demo. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, would you have fun? I'm like, well, that's great. I'm like, I don't know that I'd ever call a no sale a great demo. I'm like, but it is great that you had fun. Phenomenal job getting the sponsorship, by the way. I'm like, are you still there? Or if they didn't sell, I'm like, oh no, did they lose their job? I'm like, oh no, they work. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, are you still there with the customer? And if they're there, I'm going to coach them on what to share. I'm like, all right, well, hey, go, like, I usually like them to call me before we ever get to Rex. So I'm like, hey, go do Rex. And then afterwards, I want you to share this. But in this case, I had already left, So it's just some coaching on, I'm like, hey, just real quick for future. I'm like, great job. I said, if someone is working full time, I just want to make sure you know this. Customers are always going to give smoke screens on stuff, and that's fine. They just didn't want it. But I just want to make sure, if they are working, they can afford Cutco. They just might not have wanted to do it today, right? They might have wanted to use that money to go shopping at the farmer's market Saturday or go do something else that's more exciting for them. And that's fine. When people buy Cutco, they've got to be excited about it. And nobody had Cutco in the budget. So what do they use? Their fun money. And they're going to use that on what they're excited about. And some people are excited to invest in stuff for their kitchen, and some people might not, right? So no worries. I'm like, I'd say cut stuff, get them excited. I'm like, the more excited you are on your demo, Devin, the more excited they'll be. And that transfer of enthusiasm is what's going to help sales, pull over. Because again, this is not something they plan. This was not in the budget. And then they see it, they want it. If they're really excited about it, they're going to find a way to get it. Cool. And that's for all things. I mean, even me, I'm like, no, we can't do it. I'm like, ooh, that's a really good deal. I'm like, all right, we got to do this. I'm like, I know it's something I want later. It's such a good deal right now. Like, let's go. Right. So anyway, those are just a couple little things to kind of elevate, is finding out, are they there or not? Because you're going to coach them different, making sure they understand, because we don't want them thinking like, oh, I don't want them to keep, oh no, they couldn't today. Like that's normal. I want to make sure they know like, oh, they probably just weren't that excited about it, and that's okay. right? Unless they lost their job. I'm like, if they lost their job, they shouldn't today, because they don't know what's going on right now, and it's probably, you know, not something smart for them to spend money on. But for most people, it's just like they just weren't that excited to spend their fun money on it, you know. So next time, just have more fun, chop some stuff. Be like, oh, Miss Susie, you see how to use that? Oh, look how cool! Like, because the more excited they are, that's going to help pull the plug when people purchase Cutco. Cool. All right, I'm like, a phenomenal job with your sponsorship. Super excited, first of many. Let's go to that next time. Like, I'm excited for you to, and then the send off. Hey, go rock your next demo. Super excited to help you get that first sale. Cameron from your class sold an essentials set. You know, Grant just dropped a homemaker. Isabella just did a custom set. And you got the same training, and I'm so excited to help you knock yours out. Cool. So go have fun on that next demo, bring up that excitement, and make sure to call me, because like I said, even a trimmer literally on Toupee Guide is less than like a small tank of gas. Cool. And so call me up so I can help you when you're there. I'll be able to support you more if your customer, if you have fun with them and they're excited, we're going to help them find the best deal for them. Cool. All right. Awesome. Then we hang up. All right. Because we also want them to leave wanting to call you from their next appointment. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody? That makes sense to everyone? All right. Rep calls you, is calling in, and hi, you know, manager, my customer's considering a homemaker set. Who wants to take that one? Go for it, Cameron.
You're muted, bro.
Sorry, I was looking at the script. Do they like to cook?
Oh yes, they do.
Awesome. Then we definitely want to hook them up. Do they have any old knives they'd be willing to donate for charity? We actually have this cool special, it's called the trade-in. So basically, if they trade in any of their old stuff, it is donated to charity, and they can save $180 or get $325 of whatever they want for free. So do they have anything that they could donate to charity?
I could ask them. That's super cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So show them that and see what they like best. And if for whatever reason they don't do that, keep reading your manual, drop down to the galley, and call me back for deals. Okay.
All right, awesome. He sounded so good. All right, well, you know, he's literally reading my script, but this is literally what I used to say. So I'm like, perfect. That's just perfect. No, but these are some basic combos that I used to have when people called in. Great job with that. Here's what I would say. The delivery with the deal needs to be more exciting, Cameron. Cool. So
Okay.
when you could be like a chill guy and monotone, and like I've had quiet people, and then there's like the hype guys. It doesn't matter. But if I'm sharing this, say I'm like, oh hey, I'm like, oh, so I'm going to pretend to be a more quiet version of me. One of my guys who's more introverted, quiet, I'm going to be Sakavian or Nettie. But they call him, hey, and they call me, I'm like, oh, well, hey, do they like to cook? I'm like, oh, then we definitely want to hook them up. I'm like, by the way, do they have any old knives that you think they might be willing to donate to charity? And they'll say, oh, I don't know, or oh, maybe. I'm like, well, dude, we have a cool special called the trade-in. Basically, if they trade in any of their old stuff to charity, I'm like, check this out. I'm like, they can actually save $180, or they could get $325 of whatever they want for free. I'm like, isn't that awesome? And the rep needs to be like, oh, wow, that's so cool. You know, like they've got to be excited. Let me give you guys all a huge tip when it comes to your reps closing deals you give them. What did I just tell you? For a customer to buy, they need to be what?
Excited.
Yeah, they got to be excited about it, right? Like, why would I use my fun money on buying this that I didn't plan over going shopping with my girlfriends or going partying this week or whatever it is, right? Like, they've got to be excited about it if they're going to buy it. Well, guys, your customer is usually at least 3 notches lower in excitement than you are. Cool. So if you're at like a 6 or 7 in excitement, your customer's like at a 3 or 4. That's why I don't know, Devin, if you ever watched like Francisco Herrera give tips for his demo or go through, like, he's like on crack, okay, Cutco crack, as he shares with customers. Guess who he learned that from? His mentor, Andy Janti, my best friend. one of the best Hall of Fame, one of the best. And you watch, and he's like, oh, he's been doing this for 23 years, and he still has this insane, crazy excitement when he shows Cutco. He's like, Miss Jones, are you ready? Look at this. Look at this one. He's like, oh, isn't it sexy? And he has so much fun with his customers. What is his objective? He's like, I want them so, they're like, he's like, wait. He's like polishing it, handing it over, and he hands it like a piece of sterling silver to the customer. This is like a tactic of Andy's he teaches like for 2 decades. He's like, he polishes the knife like when he's in person. Before he hands, he's never like, oh, here's Cutco. Never, ever have I seen him hand a knife to a customer without polishing it like it's got rubies, gems, and it's sterling silver. Got it? And he does that on purpose. Why? Because it makes it feel more expensive. It makes the value up, right? Like, what do you shine? Sterling silver, rubies, things that shine, your Rolex, your diamond ring, right? Like, you shine them. So he grabs the knife, he uses the polishing cloth, he polishes the steel, and he's like, hold. Are you ready? He's like, ooh. And then sometimes he'll go, oh, like he'll make like a sound. But the customer's like they have this like excitement to hold this amazing piece of whatever, right? And it's just how he presents it. And he's like, Miss Jones, how does that feel in your hand? He's like, isn't that comfortable? Isn't that nice? He's like, oh, it's so nice when you have those long days of cooking big meals for the family or whatever, and it's so comfy. It's won so many awards for the ergonomics from the Arthritis Association. If it's lefties, righties, big, small hands, like the guy who made these handles was the handle man. Like he made the poor stick shift. He made all these things. He was featured in Forbes, Dr. Thomas Lamb, for like his work and ergonomics and handles. I can go on and on, but isn't that handle amazing? They're like, wow, so comfy. I'm like, oh yeah, it's amazing. I'm like, and my parents are both left-handed. This is true. And so they love it because it fits their hand perfectly, and not a lot of things are made ergonomically to fit lefties as good. And so they freaking love this. And our scissors work for lefties or righties. So you don't have to be, it's not like you have to buy special left-handed scissors, which my parents had to do. And so they love this. And they're like, wow, right? So what I'm saying is like, what's your level of excitement or enthusiasm when you talk to customers, right? Well, guys, if you're telling your rep something, what's your rep going to be? Naturally, a couple notches less excited than you, right? And then they have to tell the customer the deal. And they're going to be 3 notches lower. Let's do some math here, y'all. Let's say you're feeling really good. You're like, I was at an 8. Where's your rep at?
5,
5 or 6. Where's their customer at?
3.
Okay, a sale is gonna, you have to be in the 5 mark, right? Like that's a maybe sale is a 5. So this is why you hear some of the managers sometimes are like super high. And by the way, you don't have to be like loud, high energy, like, hey, what's up? Like Devin has a more outgoing. That's how I am too. But guess who I learned this job from? Very quiet introverts, by the way. Ryan Casey, one of the quietest, most introverted managers of our time, also had won 6 silver cups when he trained me, all right, years ago. And he was really, and I watched him and I'm like, oh, I get it, right? Because you'll never see Ryan like, hey, what's up? Hell no. That's against every fiber of his being. Okay. He's like, hey, what's going on? But he'll be like, oh, guess what? Or like, Sacavion, man, I got a deal for you. You ready for this? Be like, write this down because your customer is going to love this. Be like, we have something called a trade-in and da-da-da-da. And it's like, they're slow and whatever. Be like, isn't that awesome? Like they need to be like, wow, I'm like, did you hear me? Did you not hear me? Do I need to tell you this again? They could save $180 or pick out $325 of whatever they want. Let me hear your excitement. Oh, I'm like, all right. I'm like, make sure when you tell your customer, get excited because they're going to be at least 3 notches lower than you. Cool. And so when you be like, oh, guess what? My manager said there's this thing called a trade-in. And when they first start off, you actually have to coach them on how to say it to their customer, and they get better and better at that. Cool. So Cameron, great job going through. Obviously it was my script, so it was great. But the delivery with the deal, and like, isn't that great? Like the more excited your rep is about the deal you give them, the more likely they're going to close that deal. Cool. Because if you say that to a rep and they go, okay, what do you guys think the likelihood is they're going to actually close that deal? None. To me, it's none. If one closed, it's like a miracle of God. All right. But like probably not happening because I can tell right away when I tell a rep based on their excitement. Okay. So your job is to get your rep excited about a deal so that they're so excited to tell their customer. Like anytime my rep goes, really? We can do that? Or, oh, wow, that's awesome. I know we have a very good likelihood of an upsell. Got it? And I'll pass it on to you guys as reps. Anytime your manager gives you a deal, get freaking excited for them. My best reps are damn good at this. Oh, let me give you a quick example. Sorry, I tell too many stories, but Mike Arrieta, Silver Cup champion 2006. I'm gonna play an interview of him for you guys. I'm gonna share an interview. But anyway, kid started real like a little bit when he started, a little bit ghetto, not very good communication skills, had a huge stutter. So like nothing would come out, huge stutter problem, like all these things. And so he would be really nervous all the time with customers because he had a stutter. He wasn't well spoken, he definitely came from lower income. And I remember coaching him and I was like, hey, you've gotta be excited. I know you're nervous. You've got to get excited. I said, if you can't get your words out, because he's like, like he would need a second to get composed. I said, you need to do something that gets them excited. Okay. I said, it could be like a really great look. It could be like a thumbs up. It could be whatever you want. Cool. But whenever I'm telling you a deal and you're with a customer, whether you're on Zoom or in person, you need to be looking at the customer going, like, just something that gets them excited. Okay. He's like, okay. I said, and that'll help you calm yourself because like they'll have eyes of like, tell me, and you'll be excited to tell them more than nervous. Okay. And it's going to take some time, but whatever. So like we worked with him a lot. But so there's a point later in his fast start, and then this kept happening like later. Like every time he'd call me and I'd be giving him a deal, I would hear this sound in the middle of us talking, what you guys just heard me do. And I'm like, every time I'd give him a deal, I would hear a clap sound. I'm like, all right, that's weird, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. Kyle Pachetto starts working for me. I say, Mikey, take Kyle under his wing. Like Kyle sold 15K in his fast start. I think he could win a scholarship this summer. I think he'd be one of our best. He's like, absolutely. A week later, Kyle Pachetto calls me from demo. I'm telling him a deal. I'm like, what? So I see them at the team meeting that week and I go, you two, come here. I said, question, what's the clap sound? And they look at each other and start laughing. And I go, all right, tell me what's going on. And Mikey's like, I don't want you to get mad. I'm like, did you do something bad? I'm like, are you slapping the customer? They're like, no. I go, then why would I get mad? And Mikey goes, Kat, remember when you first were coaching me, how you told me that like whenever you tell me a deal, I need to get the customer excited because that's going to make sure that like they're at their highest excitement in order to make a decision, right? Like if they're like, all right, you know what, let's do it or whatever. I said, yeah. He's like, so every time I'm talking to you, every time you're telling me the deal, I always do this. I'm like, oh, really? And he like puts his hand up until the customer puts their hand up. And then he's like, and then I high five him. They have no idea what's going on, but I just high five them. And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, Kat, I'll let them know. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, heck yeah. All right, I'll let them know. He's like, and I hang up, and then they're like, what's awesome? And he's like, and then I tell them the deal, and they're like, really? Oh, let's do it. And he's like, it works like every time. He's like, since I started doing that, like 90% of my customers buy. And he had a 93% closing ratio. And when he started, it was like 50% or maybe less. But I started laughing. I'm like, you're ridiculous. He's like, is that bad? He's like, I'm like, no, it's not bad. I said, do what you want. I said, you're doing what I told you, like get them excited when we're sharing a deal. And that's how he did it because it was very hard for him to do it with words at first. Cause he'd be like, I like trying to get, so like the clap, now the customer's like, tell me, like they were waiting. And so like, it was easier for him to get it out. But he taught Kyle that, and Kyle's like, oh, I started doing it. It's awesome. He's like, my customers, like, they're like so confused. Like, why'd you just high five me? And I'm like, and then I'm like, guess what? I'm like, my manager just said that if you guys did this, we could actually do X, Y, and Z. But she told me to show you something else that she thought you guys might really like. I'm like, so just so you know, there's a package that has to, and you tell them, he's like, do you like that better? Or you want to go with what you were doing? He's like, Kat, I feel like at least 7 times out of 10, they're like, let's do that. And they go with the bigger option like almost every time. And I was like, awesome. I said, well, I know it works. You guys do it however you want. Right. And so that was like his little thing. You can always steal people's little things, right? But the whole point is, does your customer, as you're getting the deal, are you getting excited as the sales rep? So as a manager, when you're sharing to your rep, do you feel your rep getting excited? Because if they're not excited when they tell the customer, it's probably a waste of your breath. Okay. So that's a big tip I have for you guys, is to make sure we get them excited. Okay. Any feedback on that? What was helpful there? I'm going to give a couple more scenarios and we'll wrap up. I just want to do a little drill for skill. Devin, people who've been doing PDI before. What was helpful for you guys there so far?
Just the getting excited part, like I didn't, well, I guess whenever I first started, I didn't realize how like how like the, I guess what, I don't know what word you said to describe it, but like the transition of energy like decreases. So like you need to make sure that you're at your highest. And then just like whenever you're giving the deals, like slow down a little bit too. Like pacing is like a really big thing. I feel like I could improve with, like you said, like, hey, like there's like this great deal that we can do on a trade in, right? Like slow down a little bit, but still keep that energy so they grasp what's going on, personally.
Awesome. Love it. Any other takeaways from that, from those who have been doing?
Yeah.
Mostly what Kevin said, just about like excitement and you know, like the transition of energy and how it decreases. And then also what you said about like the delivery. But I really liked how you said to tell them to write it down, because then they won't forget anything. And I feel like that also creates a really good habit for them of writing down important things that you say. So they'll internalize that.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Grant, were you going to say something?
Yep. I was saying that the psychology of saying like they're spending their fun money on it, like no one has Cutco budgeted. I hadn't heard that before. That was cool. And then something for me personally is polishing knives before handing them Cutco. You know, like I thought like doing that at the booth, like holy shit, that'd be great. That'd kill. Because it
Bro,
was
I'm
like,
doing that this weekend for sure.
dude, for real. Like I'm working Katy Market days. I'm like, bro, like I
When you
gotta hop
guys are
on.
at the booth, you do have to be faster, where Andy is like teasing them, like, are you ready to hold this thing? You know, but you
Um,
can
Oh
make it
yeah,
faster. You can
like
make it
doing the
faster.
cutting demonstration with like the steak knife, like you're handing them this shit little Wusthof, and then you hand them like the steak knife, and you're polishing it
Hand
before,
it,
bro.
polish
Holy
it, and you're
moly!
like, you ready? You ready to hold this?
Yeah,
Oh, how does that feel in your hand? Yeah.
I was thinking of lines to say like it just feels right, doesn't it, Miss Jones? Right? Something like that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I thought that was good.
Awesome. All right, I'm calling in. My customer is definitely getting a galley set, and free scissors. Who wants to take it?
I got you. Would that count as a starter set?
Hey, you've been doing this for, do whatever you normally do. I want to hear you so I can give you feedback.
All right. Camera, come on. All right. So, um, all right. Hey, how you doing? Okay, got it. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so they like to cook.
Yes.
Nice, nice. And they like the homemaker, right?
Um, uh, they have I'm not sure. They just said they couldn't do that one today.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So I'm gonna give you a deal with the starter. I want you to go back and show them this deal that we have with the homemaker. So like trading in a car at like a dealership, things like that. All right,
Mhm.
sick. So we do the same thing over here with our old kitchen utensils, okay?
Pause.
So
I'm
we have
canceling you.
oh, what's up?
No, listen. I called in. They're definitely buying a galley with free scissors. That's already set. Oh.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. We would try the upsell and then go back down, right?
so yep. So in this, I did this as like a trick question on purpose because it's not on there. In terms of definitely getting a galley. All right. So I want to make sure you guys know. So one, if they're definitely getting any set, I'm like, all right, awesome. They already picked out the free stuff. The next question I have for them, just so you guys know, is I asked, you already told them the deposit? All right, cool. And they're good to go. So I want to know that because sometimes I've had reps in the past that said, oh, they're definitely getting the galley with free scissors. And I'm like, awesome. And I start upselling them. And then they're like, oh, they changed their mind when I told them the price. I'm like, what? Like, I thought you're like, I'm just so confused. So I just always like when they say, hey, they're definitely getting you know, the galley with free scissors. I'm like, beautiful. I'm like, you showed them the deposit, everything good to go. I'm like, beautiful. Have you had a chance to go through all of the accessories yet? They'll say yes or no. And I'm like, all right. And do they like to cook a lot? Right. And so in this case, I said, oh, I think so. I don't know. They just said they couldn't do it. There is where I find out, I'm like, oh, did they say it was more of like a price thing or a piece thing? Right. And so I'd want to know with the set, because if it was a price thing, I'm like, all right, well, hey, by the way, galley with free scissors, awesome. Go through the accessories. We can actually do buy two, get one free. Like they can do an add-on. Like if there's other stuff they liked, we could do buy two, get one free as any add-ons. I said, but I want to show you a really cool deal with the homemaker. If it was a price thing, like there is a really cool thing called a trade-in special. And like now I'm gonna walk through the trade-in special so they know that if they want to do the homemaker. I was like, but if not, make sure to show them all the other gifts and accessories and see if there's anything else that they might want to add so we can give them the best deal. Cool. And so I'm gonna go so that they can find that out for me, but I want to know if it was a piece thing, then I'm not going to necessarily upsell on the homemaker. I'm going to focus more on, hey, let's make sure to show them the flatware, the cookware, and really go through any gifts that they might need for later, like for the holidays now, because when they buy more at one time, like whenever they do bundles on stuff, they get much better deals. Cool. So just show them the rest to see anything else they liked so I can let you know the best deal. I'm like, I had one of our reps, Anthony, sold a galley with free scissors, and then the customer ended up adding a flatware chest, and we gave them a barbecue set for free, and they were fired up. You know, so you never know. His order more than doubled just by showing that. Cool. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but show it with excitement, and you never know what else they might like from the back. Cool. Call me back once you showed them all the accessories. Make a list of anything else they were eyeing or might want prices so I can see what kind of a bundle we do for them.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Cool. That's how I would handle that. All right. I want to actually flip it. I could go through more scenarios, and I'm just every time we meet, I'm gonna just do a couple scenarios because just the stronger and better you get at this, the better you guys are going to be able to not only help your reps, but I think it helps you out a lot in your personal business. At least it did for me. You know, the better I got at upselling and helping others with that, the better I did it in my demos. You know, so before I do one or two, just in terms of time, I'd love to hear any question like you've encountered. So Devin, you're on a call, or you know, Cam, you're on a call, or anybody who's taken a PDI call before where someone called in from a demo. And so any scenarios that you've encountered that maybe either you didn't know how to handle or you did your best, but you're like, I'm curious, Kat, how you would have handled this or whatever. I'd love to open up since you guys have me right now for any questions you have. And then I'm down to do one or two more scenarios before we wrap up.
One that happened more recently. So, a part of, I guess, my PDI is like obviously like asking like piece or price issue. And then when people say price, and I'm like, okay, like what do they say? Like what's going on? Like you gave the example like, oh, did they lose their job? Like, haha. And then some reps would respond with like, oh, they think it's
By the
expensive.
way, just so you guys know, he never taught it to me like a joke. Like I didn't say that. So I was just like, oh no, did they lose their job? Like I said it genuinely.
Oh,
I was like, oh no, did they lose their job? And they're like, I don't. And I'm like, oh, okay. Sorry, y'all. She doesn't feel good. Oh, we got a bad cold going around this house. Sorry, y'all. But anyway, go on, Devin. Keep going.
um, yeah, and then like the rep would respond with like, oh, they think it's too expensive. And in my mind, like if they say expensive, like that means like they didn't build enough value. So I'm just wondering on like how to build more value when they're already on slide 10 and calling you in after they
Oh, this is a great one. And Devin, you're right on the money. And the rest of you guys can write that down. Whenever you hear it's too expensive, You know, the issue was they didn't build enough value. Cool, period. It can be coupled with other things. They might say, "Oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford it." Like the fact I can't afford it. If you guys haven't watched, and if you have watched, I would watch it again. I would watch it once a week until you get this ingrained in your brain. Is my handling objections video. It is one of the best things that will help you help reps, but also help you with your closing. Okay, like really understanding like if you don't do this, what it leads to, and how to handle it beforehand. I walk through each of the major 5 objections we get in our business, and it's like, if you heard this, here's what went wrong or whatever, and like here's how to avoid hearing that, right? And I go through that in detail. It's 35 minutes, I think. It is probably one of the best workshops I feel that I've ran in terms of really understanding that psychology. So if I hear I can't afford it, know that that's bogus unless I'm seeing someone that like is not a Mac or lost their job. That would be true. Cool. But if they are a Mac and they do have a house, well, then that's not true. But if you heard it's too expensive in anything, well, then that's the value. They just didn't feel it was worth it, right? And they might say, "Oh no, I think it's it's a little too expensive for me." They just don't. They wouldn't invest in something of that. Okay. So Devin, to your question, I don't know how much you can do at that point if they're still on the demo. But I know that after the demo, I'm going to coach them on that, and I want to help them and give them tips to help them build more value. It is, I don't know, like at that point, it's like, let's redo the demo because it really like happened during the demo. And so there's not a ton, except that I can try to help them with and I'm like, hey, I said, if they're comfortable with 30 or 40 bucks today and 30 or 40 bucks, I'm like, I would highly recommend, getting this trimmer, or I mean, I guess now it's like 50 bucks, 40 or 50 buck deposit. I'm like, I would highly and just let them try it out for 3 weeks and just see what they think. If they are like, you know what, not worth it, send it back. They're going to get 100% of their money back. But what I bet's going to happen is they're going to be obsessed when they get it. It's going to be their favorite knife. And they're like, this was so worth it. And whether they call you back in a couple months to buy more, or it takes them 5 years, at some point, I'm pretty certain they're going to be like owners of a Cutco set. Most people are, because they just totally fall in love. So just see if they're comfortable swinging a small deposit on a piece and just seeing what they think about it for 3 weeks. Like I said, worst case, they had free Cutco for 3 weeks because they'll get their money back. And then call me after so that I can give you some tips for the next one to actually help avoid that objection. Cool? That's all I would do there, Devin. Not a ton more I can do once they just haven't built value properly. But now afterwards, I'm going to say, hey, I'd love to give you some tips. Be like, hey, what are some of the things that you felt that built value, that help them understand why it costs what it does? And that's how you want to break it down to a new rep, connecting those dots on what is value, right? It's like, hey, what did you do to build value? Because people hear build value, but they're like, what does that mean? Or like, they don't fully understand it. And I'm like, so what do you feel you did? Anything that you feel you did to help build value, meaning that the customer understands why it costs what it does. And they might be like, I just read the script. I'm like, great. Like, well, hey, I want to give you a couple pointers. Some of this is in the script, but I want to make sure you don't accidentally skip it. And maybe even emphasize it a little more to make sure a customer doesn't miss it, right? That can help you make sure they understand why it costs what it does. Cool. So a couple quick things, and you might even text it and say, I'll just text this to you. You can put this in a note and give yourself a couple things. So I'm like, one, when you go through, the goals and like your sales goal, you can say, I'm assuming you didn't put away a couple grand waiting for the knife girl to come by, but I do show you why so many people invest in Cutco. That was
I
one.
use that one.
Right. So and you can have this typed up in a note, guys. So you could just send it to your rep right after with a couple tips when they're newer, right? But one is like, when you share your goals, you're be like, hey, I'm assuming you didn't put away a couple grand waiting for the knife girl, but I do want to show you why so many people invest in Cutco. I'm like, this stuff is amazing. Then on the company page, and when you talk about how it's guaranteed forever, and with the scissors, you can say, obviously being guaranteed forever, it's going to cost more. I'll go through prices later, but it's definitely an investment. We make K-bar. And so I just had like, some of you guys have my 7 steps to a sale. You can just steal a couple of the little nuggets for the value building and just throw it in a note and give it to them. And I'm like, and then just get really excited when you're chopping up and, oh, what would you use this for? Because the more excited they are, the more likely to buy. But they do need to understand why it costs what it costs. So what most of my tips are just the two I just gave you. And then on the 5 features of benefits, I'm like, make sure you read that because it says, hey, this costs more, but it's worth it because this, and this costs more and it's worth it because this. And when I was new, I didn't say it exactly like that. And I didn't realize how that was building value for me. And then when you go to the guarantee, it's that, hey, let me tell you, the biggest reason Cutco costs what it does is the guarantee. Because again, Devin, they're going to buy it once, they're going to use it every day, and they're going to have it forever. But hey, great job on your debt. Like it's a learning process. You are working with something that is an investment. It's not a cheap buy or like Girl Scout cookies that people buy on the fly. And so they do need to understand why it costs what it does. And part of that's us really understanding the value. Be like, most of us when we're new, we don't get it. We're college kids. We haven't invested in the best of something. And Cutco is the best of its kind. So obviously it's going to cost more. So those are just a couple things that, when you do your next demo can help you with that. Cool. But at the end of the day, if they say it's expensive, it was a value. If they say I can't afford it, it's a smoke screen. They probably just didn't want it. Or, maybe they had something tragic they don't want to tell you about. But no worries, dude. It's a no sale. Shake it off. We have no sales. We have great sales. We have average sales. We have small sales. All part of the game. But who's your next demo? How are you feeling about it? Da-da-da. And get them in the zone to go out and have some fun on that next appointment. You never want them carrying what happened on one appointment to the next one. Cool? Does that help? Any other questions while you guys have me here? Because I'm not always available.
Mm.
right.
I guess I have another one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we had a great week, pat on the back. And I just want to kind of get some tips on about definitely getting. And I know what to do as a rep, but I feel like I don't want to overwhelm them with upselling McDonald's, right? Like, oh, you want fries with that? Like, oh, we have a 2-for-1 accessories or things I feel like so whenever I do say that, it's kind of overwhelming. So I guess to a new rep in their fast start, and they already have momentum, they're really pushing for 10K. How do you teach? What are the basic fundamentals of upselling, I guess?
I want you to watch again. So you have it. And actually, let me grab these videos for you guys. But I want you to watch again, increasing your average order through accessories. Okay, because I do all those steps, and you are going to upsell like McDonald's, but it's just how you deliver it. And it's like, oh, okay, no worries. Let me show you this. And then were you guys in the market for this? Okay, cool. But you want to show all the things. Oh, wait. Sorry, guys. We had a bad cold come through the house this past week, and little lady's the last to get hit. She does not feel so good. So sorry, what were you just saying?
Upserving McDonald's and how
Yes.
to deliver that to a new.
So it's a hey, just so you know, and then give them one thing at a time, and then say, call
Okay.
me back and let me know anything else. So we had a kid, I remember, he would never freaking call him, but he finally did. They're selling a home maker. So this is the scenario. So let's do this really fast before we wrap up, and I'll finish the story out and we're done. So customer calls and they are definitely buying a homemaker. So this was our rep. They were definitely buying a homemaker, and they were getting the super shears for free. Cool. How do you handle that? Devin, you want to take it?
Yeah. Hey Kathy. Okay, great. Did you already give them the price?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're
And and were they going to pay for it in full, or were they going to split it up over a 5 pay?
Ooh, by the way, you guys write that down. It's a great question to ask. They're gonna do the deposit. They're gonna do the 5 pay.
Okay, great. So since we're giving them the shears for free, I want you to, oh, sorry. Do you already have their card in hand? Did you go straight to the payment, or are we still in slide 10?
I'm still in slide 10.
Okay. Um, I want you to ask them a little bit more about what they do in the kitchen, okay, Kathy? So this could be like showing them the cookware, like ask them, hey, how is your cookware? There's a really great video on the cookware slide that explains the whole thing. I just want you uh to play the video for them and then drop down as you were between the three sets. And then also make sure we're showing them accessories and gifts, right? Like Thanksgiving and Christmas is right around the corner. We could do a great deal on gifts. So show them all of that and then make sure to give me a call back for a new deal.
Okay. So I could see how it could feel a little bit overwhelming because I heard cookware and accessory, like there's a
Yeah.
lot. I'm a new rep. I'm like, what did you just say here? So we want to go one step at a time. Cool. So
Okay.
when somebody calls in selling the homemaker, the first thing I'm doing is what's on that sheet there. And I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, do they love to cook? I'm like, hey, by the way, did you show my first step? And so I have a process. Like, this is a real process I did, and I taught so many people, and I've seen small sales turn into enormous sales. This specific rep who was selling a definite homemaker, by the way, he ended up with a $7,000 order. Let me walk you through what happened. Step one is what you guys see on there. Do they like to cook? Did you show them the complete and signature? I said, please go show them that really quick. He hadn't yet. I said, please go show them that real quick because there are some incredible deals with that. And they could actually save a couple $100 if they do it today, or they could pick out, $400 to $600 of free stuff with the two of the, with the larger sets, just depending on what they're getting. I said, show them that real quick and give me a call back and let me know so I can walk you through step by step to make sure that they see everything we have and they know all their options. Cool. And he's like, all right, cool. And so he calls back. You know what? They really did like the complete set. They're kind of between the two, but they like that because they said it had more of the steak knives. And I said, yeah, that one comes with 12 instead of 10, yada, yada. I said, if they did that, we can let them pick out $600 of whatever they want from the gifts and accessories. Cool. So what I want you to do next is go through the gifts and accessories. I want you to just flip through there because there are some really cool things. And Devin, I had someone that the customer, like they didn't even want the bigger set, but when they showed them the accessories, they were like, oh my gosh, we need forks and spoons. And they ended up adding with, by the time it was said and done, over $2,400 to their order.
Wow.
So just show them the gifts and accessories and just write down anything that they see that you see. They're like, ooh, what's that? Or you can even ask, hey, would you want to know prices on anything here? And then just keep going to the next slides. And just tell them, say, hey, Miss Jones. So when we hang up now, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna show them, or sorry, they call me back. They like the complete set. I said, cool. I go, next step is I want you to go through all the gifts and accessories and you're gonna write stuff down. Here's what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, hey, Miss Susie, I'm gonna go through and show you all of our gifts and accessories because you can actually get a $600 shopping spree. Anything that catches your eye, let me know so I can write it down. And then afterwards, I'll get the prices for you on everything. That way you can make your final selections. Cool? So just go through the accessories and write down anything they like. And then we'll go through prices after. All right. So do that and call me back. Calls back. Hey, they really liked the flatware. They really liked, the gardening tools and whatever. I said, okay, cool. I go ahead. Just so you know, option one, they're buying their complete, they can pick out their $600, which these could be parts of it. I said, and then there are some cool deals on top. I said, if they wanted to add the flatware, we could actually give them, I said, they're going to save a couple $100 because normally it would cost this and it's only this to add it on. And they could now pick out $300 more of whatever they want for free. So they could add that other fishing knife and the hunting for the gift for their brother, and they could add this. Cool. I said, so just show them that and see if they like that. And then, and if they do, call me back so I can let you know about some other bundles. Because if I keep getting yes, I'm going to keep showing them another thing. All right. I don't want to leave until I get 3 no's. This is something I taught Mikey, the guy who won Silver Cup, and he got really good at it. But it's like they're still saying yes, keep offering. Oh, and then would you want to add this? And they're like, oh no, I don't need that. They're like, no, we don't need, and they're like, oh no, we don't have any more gifts to purchase. I'm like, all right, beautiful. Let's get your prices and stuff all together, right? But it's a, hey, just so you know, I'm like, anything else you'd want prices, anything else you see here. I'm like, the reason I asked Miss Susie and tell your customer is the more you end up buying at once, the better deals you get. So if there are things you might need for the holidays and for gifts or for you, I'd love to make sure you know what it would look like if you knocked it out today, right? And so you're just teaching them some of this language. But again, they call in, okay, awesome, Devin. Do they love to cook? Exactly what I have on that sheet there. Show them the larger sets. Give me a shout back if they like that, or if they don't, so I can let you know next step. They call me back, hey, they really like that. I'm like, beautiful. Next step is we're gonna walk through accessories so they can pick out, their $600 shopping spree, but also so we could see if there's anything else that catches their eye for them or for gifts. I had someone that did this. They had a $2,400. So they're like, it's always great to pop a story. Do you guys see how I do that? And I would tell reps because now they're like, ooh, maybe I could do that too, right? And so giving them a story of someone that's done an upsell, right? Like, so you never know, show it to them because you never know. And if they like it, there's some additional bundles and things we can do. And they're going to get super hooked up. Cool. So just grab a pen and paper and say, hey, Miss Susie, I'm going to walk you through the gifts and accessories to write down anything that catches your eye for you or for gifts. And that way you can know what you can pick from. I'll get prices so you can pick from for your shopping spree. But also if there's other things you might like, when you buy things in a bundle, you actually get a lot more for your money. So that way you can at least know if you wanted to knock out what it would be. Cool. And if not, no big deal. At least you know the prices. Sound good? Sound good. And now they go through gifts and accessories. They write stuff down and you're going to go back and forth. And they liked that deal with the flatware and getting $300 more for free. And I said, by the way, just ask them if they just, I said, I'm just going to throw this out there. I said, because it sounds like they cook. It sounds like they like a lot of the stuff. Like when they called me back and I saw the list, I said, we have something called a cook kitchen. I'm just going to throw it out there. There's 3 different sizes, but the mini kitchen is a homemaker and the dedicated cookware set and the flatware set. I said, normally that retails for this. I said, they actually, if they buy the kitchen, they're saving, I think it was like $1,200 or $1,400, they're saving. And they get to pick out $1,500 of whatever they want for free. So they're saving like $3,000. I'm like, so at this point, with everything they're looking at, I said, just when we hang up, you're going to say, hey, my manager wanted me to share something, like just so you know that this is an option, no pressure, but just want to make sure you know that we have something called a Cocoa Kitchen, and he like showed them to, and then I told him, I said, and at the end, when you present it, you're going to say, did you like that option better, or do you want to go with what you were doing? There's no pressure. Do you guys see that? Like no pressure. Rep feels good. Hey, did you like that option better, or did you want to go with what you were doing? And the customer said, well, they said, we like that option. Let's do that. And they bought a Cutco kitchen. He had a $7,000 order. And this was a kid who never freaking called from his damn demos. And after that, he like posted on, he's like, I'm calling in from every appointment now. All right. But if you do it right, you can really help your reps. And he would have had a great sale on his own. He would have sold a homemaker, free scissors, been super excited. But do you think he was a little more excited? He sold $7,000. Of course, right? But do you see that process, Devin? So it doesn't feel like, and then the screw button is it? It's just it's bigger set, and then it's accessories, and then it's if they need any gifts or anything else, just write them down. That way, we can make sure they know their best bundles. So just keep.
Yeah. I like that. So just so you know, like it takes the pressure off. Like instead of saying, "Hey, our ultimate's $36.99," like, would you like to do this instead?
And
So
just so you know, we have this bundle or we have this deal. Do you like that better? And you got to teach them the nonverbals too when you guys coach them in person. It's like,
right.
did you like that better, or do you want to just go with what you were doing? It's kind of like yucky. They're like,
Yeah.
did you guys like that better, or do you want to just go with what you were doing? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh no, I like that. I'm like, beautiful. Let's do it. I'm like, you guys want to do it in classic or pearl? All right, and let's go. Let's have some fun. What do you want for your shopping spree? And then we go through that. All right. So those are just tips, I hope really help you guys out today. Any other questions? Or I'd love to hear any takeaways that you guys got from this. That's really helpful for me to know what's helpful for you guys as we're coaching new people.
Since I've already been talking, just like when you were like the whole like yucky face and like making them more inclined to the new bundle, it's kind of like I don't know, like those game shows where like you pick a door and then you're right, and then it's like, oh, do you want to change? And like most people change kind of thing. Like they have a new option, right, that they didn't know about. So I'm gonna do that tonight actually. So yeah.
Yeah, rock that demo. Anybody else? Anything that was helpful for you guys? Any takeaways or any questions?
I think asking if they're gonna pay in full or in the payment is very important because like if you show somebody the homemaker and like you tell them the price and they're like, oh yeah, like let me get the homemaker like and you haven't showed them like an ultimate if they can afford 1649 at once and they can probably afford 3800 or more on a 5 pay. So
You just
They
sold them
can
five
afford
grand.
$1,500 today. They can probably swing that every month because everybody has their monthly budget and all your expenses, and then you have your extra. Some people's extra is very little or not at all, and some it's very large. And so that's a big thing of like knowing their comfort zone. Like I was talking to someone recently, I'm like, I never sold in full. I'm like, if somebody wanted to buy a homemaker in full, I'm like, Miss Susie, why don't you spend less today and put down $1,000 deposit on this bundle here where you can try that and the flatware and these other things. I was like, worst case, you send it back. I was like, but if not, you're saving a couple grand on this bundle and you're gonna have this forever. And they're like, oh, you're right. Let's do that. Like if someone can afford a homemaker in full, y'all, they can definitely buy a Cutco kitchen. I learned that very early in my career. So are you showing them something that's about the same or less, usually just $100 or $200 less deposit? Like, how about you spend $200 less today and you try everything out, right? Just same thing. If someone's going to buy a chef knife or a hearty slicer, I'm like, Miss Susie, why? I'm like, I have a bundle and it's actually less today. Instead of paying the $200 for that knife, I said the deposit's actually 160. And I was like, and it actually gives you 3 weeks to try out this entire bundle. It has this and that, and I show them a set with some free stuff. And I'm like, so I highly recommend this. You want your daughter? I highly recommend this. Oh, sorry, flashing her belly at you guys. Um, um, anyway, showing, I don't even know what I was just saying. I'm sorry, guys. I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, anyway, sets are great.
Throw in the bundle. If they can afford 1,000, should have sold
Oh
them.
yeah. Just know that, like people, whatever they can spend freely, comfortable, they can usually do so every month, and so finding, so that's why it's always like one, your job as a sales rep is to find the customer's comfort zone. All right. Your rep's job is to find the customer's comfort zone, not yours. Your job as a manager is to do what? Show them the
Help
best
them
value.
find their comfort zone.
Show them their best value.
Oh.
Rep's job, find the customer's comfort zone. Manager's job, show them their best value. Cool.
Okay.
How do they get the most for their money? So if I know this customer's comfortable spending $150 today, now my job is to show them the best value where they're going to spend that or less today. Cool. Just a good rule of thumb to think as you guys are learning this. Sound good?